For this week's tip of the week, it's a little bit of a stretch to call it a tip, but I'm showing you how I built and upholstered a super fancy dog bed. After all these years of tearing furniture apart and putting it back together, I really just wanted to make something. So I thought you might like to see how it was done, and hopefully it'll inspire you to create something yourself. It really is just simple construction. To keep the cost down, I used 2x4s. I made a rectangle and then added that larger piece to support the arms. Added the arm pieces and then capped it off using pocket holes and screws. So here's the construction. Basically, pocket holes joining the sides, or the fronts to the sides, then pocket holes joining the arm. This is screwed and glued into this piece, which again is overkill, but it'll work. And then the top of the arms are screwed in. Because it is going to be a dog bed and they will be jumping all over it. So this being wider is helping support that arm. It did not need to be quite that tall though. A 6-inch board would have been fine, but like I said, I had this board, so that's what I used. Now, because I'm going to be dropping the foam inside of here, also again, because my dogs will be running and jumping on it, I want this frame to hold the foam in. So I'm going to be upholstering it a little differently. Normally what you would do is you would have a 2x4 here, then you would have a gap so that you could upholster the arm and pull it through. And then this would be your decking, if that makes sense. If not, that's okay. But anyway, I'm doing it this way because I'm going to upholster down and staple underneath and then upholster over the front rail. Okay, step 1 to upholster is to add cardboard to cover the opening on the outside so that it'll support the foam. Also on the inside, that little piece that was open, you could also use burlap or synthetic wrapped in 1/2-inch high density foam. Capped it off. So they're nice and padded for when my little Charlie puts her head here. And then I'm covering it with Dacron. So I've done the front here. So the way I've decided to upholster it is I'm going to sew from the point I've cut a little notch here all the way around so that I can slip this piece on and then staple around the bottom. You could also, if you're not into sewing as much, if you're new at upholstery, what you could do is just staple it like this. You wouldn't put this foam here, but you would staple it to the 2x4 in the front, and then you could put the face piece on, fold it under on the edges, and use nail head. So that would be a way that you wouldn't have to sew. But I'm going to do the more streamlined sewing method. Then I covered the whole thing with Dacron. Out really well, nice and tight and full. So the first thing to do though was to wrap these bottom rails, and what I did is from underneath I stapled to the bottom of the board, wrapped it around, and then I temporary tacked underneath. The reason why I temporary tacked underneath is because I'm going to be adding a bottom of plywood. Because this is a dog bed, I don't need springs. I don't want them bouncing any higher than they need to. What I'll do is I'll add that piece of wood and then wrap the front around it so that you don't see it and it's nice and finished. So I had to do a relief cut right here and on the other side, and I hide it underneath the arm foam, and then I staple it here. Then I'll put the foam and the batting over it, and then this, once everything's all done, it'll be laying over here nicely, and I will hand stitch this closed so that you have a nice line all the way down. Straight down. And then this I'll have to do a relief cut to go around, and then it'll staple under. So that's what I'm going to do first. Get the bottom on, sides, and then I'll come back and hand stitch that. Okay, so it's coming together. Now I need to flip it over, pull all the temporary tacks, and screw this piece of plywood to the bottom. I'm going to cover the plywood with decking fabric so that it doesn't scratch my cushion and it looks nice and finished. And I probably could put a layer of Dacron down too, but I'm not going to because this is for me and it's getting out of control. But for a client, I probably don't forget to put your T-nuts in so that the leg will be able to be screwed in from underneath. That's what they look like. You drill a hole and you pound them in. Flipped it over, put the bottom on, and it just so happens that the stem that sticks up goes right in the hole between those boards. I would like to say I planned that, but so now the front piece comes over and is stapled to the bottom so you do not see any of that. And again, I will hand stitch that part. And I flipped it over and hand stitched those down, and we're ready to do the cushion. Yeah, just simple, but I like the simplicity of it. Of course, some button tufting and nail head wouldn't hurt either, but I'm not doing that. I'm stopping right here. So this is step one in the process of redecorating our bedroom, and I just really wanted to start with something pretty for the dogs, and then next step is a headboard, and then we'll go from there. Thanks for watching. It took her a minute, but she caved. She loves it.